Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Dr. Ginny Barrow, and I'm here with these beautiful women who were part of the World Self Care Summit in this past June. This is host Sensei Victoria Whitfield and myself, who welcomed a beautiful group of women who joined us. And we have Fatima Pilar Avila and Julia Cruzado, who were two of the members who joined us on June 16th at the World Self-Care Summit. So
Mhm.
what my main goal for wanting to have this aftermath and talk about what we went through during our retreat is to, number one, support you in creating the structure to self-care intentionally throughout the year so that you can, as a leader, as a woman leader, feel recharged throughout the year. And as you do, you will be performing at your highest and at your best and feel at your best. And number two, to share the stories of these beautiful women who were at the retreat so that you can see yourself in their stories and see that it's possible for you to also do this. So, with that, I want to welcome everyone. And Sensei Victoria, would you tell us what your intention is for this session?
Absolutely. So it's wonderful to get to recap and share with our digital community, all the digital sisterhood and leadership, what happened at the last World Self Care Summit, getting you excited for the next one coming up soon. And my intention today is to especially to normalize this conversation amongst women in leadership around self-care, welcoming you into that. And I also want to bring forward what are the things that stop us from engaging in self care as women leaders. So if you are watching this, whether you're on the hashtag live, put hashtag live, or on the hashtag replay, put hashtag replay, and also tag other women leaders who you believe need to be part of this conversation as well as this event. Back to you, Jen.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, the first question we want to ask Pilar and Julia is, how did you make it happen? I know that we got together from 10 a.m. ET to 4 p.m. ET with a 2 hour lunch in between where you get to do your home spa retreat. So, or treatment, as we call it, your home spa treatment. So, how did you make it happen? Carve out that time. So, either Julia or Pilar, please go ahead and tell us.
Well, I can tell you simply when you sent out the information about all the dates this year, in that very moment, I went to my calendar, I blocked off the days, I went into my company's portal and I requested off. And I knew that if I didn't do it right then and there, I would forget.
That's amazing, Julia. And that's what we always teach, right? Like we have to be intentional and put it on your calendar. So, Pilar, what about you?
Um, I saw the promotion and I did the same thing. I went to my calendar and I was wondering, where will I be, on that day? Because, I'm now a digital nomad. But, as the day approached, I made a commitment to myself to spend the time with myself, with the team. I had no idea about who else would participate, but it was just such a wonderful experience of sharing in an environment of trust, safety, and really generosity and love. I had a great experience, and I look forward to joining you on October 20th, right?
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Awesome. Yay. So, I just want to share very briefly what our agenda looked like from June because I always tell everybody who joins us, this is not your regular meeting. So, you're not going to be at your desk sitting in a hard chair all day with us. We host the retreat. Goddess Victoria was in Hawaii and I was on my bed. That's where I host the retreats from. So everybody's very comfortable in your little home private retreat space, whatever that may be for you. And the agenda was grounding and meditation for a welcome, a gratitude and connection in the morning. Then we have releasing these empowering habits and practices because the theme was to recharge. And then we went into our lunch or dinner break and your home spa treatment. And we wrapped up the day with a recharge empowering ritual practices. And lastly, commitment and recharge meditation. That's what a day looks like when we get together. So it's all about the theme in this case was recharge. What is holding us back from recharging? And what does it feel like to recharge? And what will we stop doing? What will we start doing to recharge? So we want to take you through some of that together as if you were with us, and also have you hear from Pilar and from Julia what it was like for them to go through this. One of the first conversations we had when we joined was we had a discussion in the morning about what it means to react versus respond, and how reacting actually deters from our peace and our energy and drains our energy versus responding, which requires intention. It requires feeling, connected to yourself before you react. So that was a part of our morning conversation. So, Goddess Julia, what was it like for you when you got engaged with that topic of reactive versus responding? What were some of the takeaways that you had?
You know, when someone says something and it's so timely because it's been on your mind and on your heart, and I've been sharing that feedback with my peers, like, doesn't it feel like we're just reacting to everything that's happening at work? I just feel like I'm constantly chasing after whatever, right? A deadline, just trying to talk to someone, trying to finish my work. And even at home, I've got enough going on at home, and I just feel like I'm chasing after it. So hearing that, I really needed it. And I have so many notes. I got my notebook here from that day, but just feeling so powerless and so out of control when I react to things, right? I'm depending, or I'm waiting for that thing to happen so I can react to it. And it ends up controlling me. Whereas, how do I say, okay, I may not know what's coming. And you shared this recently, what can I control? What can't I control? So there's externals that I can't control, but I can control what I do and how I react. And so being more proactive to how do I respond when those things happen? I don't know what's going to happen, but let me respond to them versus react with, half my brain and
Yeah.
and make decisions that I'm going to regret later or that drain me.
So this is a perfect example of one of the practices and tools that our members walked away with. Ooh, going forward, I'm going to be much more intentional about responding versus reacting. And that alone, that little practice alone, how has it been for you, Julia, since you've adopted this new way of being?
I am a work in progress, and
Yes,
I recognize
yes,
that. And but what do they say? Awareness is the first step. So
yeah,
just being aware of my thought patterns and even how I respond, and I see it a little bit more with my kids because I'm a little, I've got professional filter Julia at work, and I'm the unfiltered, not so nice Julia at home sometimes. And so even just seeing the words that I use and or just the way I respond, and then I see it reflected when my kids do it back. I think, "Where are you learning that?" "Oh, from me." And so that for me has been the biggest thing of I need to lead by example at work, but at home as well. And so how do I start incorporating these practices just by stopping, like when I do that long suffering sigh, or roll my eyes or snap at someone, how do I stop myself in that moment and say, you know what, I'm sorry, let me take a breath, let me start over. And that has so far been the biggest thing to just stop that habit.
that's beautiful, beautiful. And all that self-awareness, right? I
Mhm.
can even just hearing you, I can sense all that self-awareness. I'm actually doing this and I'm going to choose and make a choice to do something different. Thank you so much, Goddess Julia. What about you, Pilar or Fatima? What about you?
I needed to give you my name, my retreat name,
That's right.
and yeah, and I have the blessing from my friends here to adopt the name, beautiful name Fatima, meaning
Gorgeous.
the one with light.
Yay.
Uh, yeah. Um, it was it really was one of the biggest takes away. awareness, as Juliet mentioned, of taking a step back when different situations, people come at us,
Yeah.
and without the level of consciousness, we would be reacting in ways where we have absolute no control.
Yeah.
And it's something that I thought was super interesting is who is responding. Is Pilar the 5-year old that used to hide under the bed, or is it Pilar the 15-year old that didn't know, who's responding? Because
Yes.
it's not me, it's not Pilar today. Pilar is not Pilar, the conscious Pilar, the thoughtful Pilar.
Yeah.
So I think definitely one of the biggest takes away. But at the same time, I have to tell you that um, I think that it's important also to find ways to be able to be totally unfiltered. When is
Yeah.
that? when,
Yes.
when is that time? With whom?
Yes.
Right? Where
Yes.
can you do that? Right? Because
Where's that safe space?
exactly, where is that safe space? Because sometimes you're trying to be kind and thoughtful, in the way that you engage with people, but sometimes also you have bottled up frustration.
Yeah. Of course.
you know
Of
so
course.
so I did an exercise this week, and I just selected a friend, and I said, yes, I need a friend to vent with.
Yes. That's self-care. That's self-care in
Yes,
action.
and I let it all go. So
Absolutely.
so so in a way, I feel that's also part of sort of releasing the
Absolutely.
tension, releasing these feelings, releasing these emotions in a safe space, so we can continue to work on our capacity and our ability, to be more measured and more thoughtful in the way that we respond. So,
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much. And, Pilar is bringing up something that we discussed for a while in the morning, which was when we are reacting, we typically are not reacting from the person who we are today. Like, I'm 54 years old. I've been doing personal development since 2020, like a long, long time. I'm sorry, since 2000, 23 years. So, who's reacting? Who am how old am I? And by the way, this was not coming from me or our co-host Sensei Victoria. This came from one of our members who actually brought into the
brilliant.
conversation something she had learned about who's actually responding, who's reacting. And wow, to have that self-awareness, it's the Ginny who was injured, or the Ginny who was hurt, or the Ginny who was broken up with, or the Ginny who didn't want to be taken advantage of. Like, that is not the situation today. So that is where what Pilar was referring to as she was saying, who's responding, who's reacting. And so this is what happens when we get together. And we have Annette who joined us. Yes, Annette, we need to pause before we just react. Absolutely. And it takes us taking that one beat to do that. So thank you. Thank you, Annette. All right. So let's go into, we want to give you some prompts. All of you who are watching the replay, want to give you some prompts for developing your self-care. So the first question I'm going to ask, and we can go into the conversation here. We have about 15 minutes is what daily rituals and habits drain you in the context of feeling recharged in your life and as a leader, as a woman in your career? So, what daily rituals and habits drain you? I'll start by saying that context switching is so draining for me, like going from one thing to the next. I don't know if this is something that you experience, but I go to my computer to do A, and I end up doing B, C, D, E, F, G. I forgot A. And then when I'm done with G, I have to go back to A because wait, I came here to do something. And so that really drains me. So I'm going to be much more intentional going forward to go at something and actually go for it and write down the other things that I want to do that are also important because my intuition is saying, hey, don't forget about this, but that I don't have to actually do them right in that moment. And I believe that's really going to help me, one, be more result focused and get that one thing that I needed to get done, and not diffuse my awareness, because we have the superpower as women to have diffused awareness where we can do multiple things. But at the end of the day, we're not doing multiple things. We're context switching between all these different things. And all that context switching is taking a part of our bandwidth and brain power. So when we're doing all that switching, we're actually decreasing our capacity to perform. And so that's what I'm going to do that will hopefully, stop draining me so much. So what about you, Sensei Victoria?
I love this. So the pattern in me that I see that drains me is predicting what the energy in the room is going to be before I've even got there.
Interesting.
So being in the room is so potent. Like, that's why we're sharing this. Like, it's one of the huge barriers I know from a lot of the sisterhood that I've heard, is that we'll kind of talk ourselves out of getting into the Zoom room, going to the event, being part of the situation because, oh, well, I know what's going to happen, or I already heard this, or I already know that. I know for me personally, I tend to fight against the part of myself that is very analytical and very intelligent, that says, I know what's going to happen. And so instead of going, I'm going to go and do this. Or instead of going and doing, like, going to the gym, like I had my 3-hour leg day this morning, I was like, no. I know what it's going to be like there. It's going to be too hot. I can't go. I can't do this. Like, I'm tired. Blah, 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 blah. Predicting what I'm going to be like in the room before I even get there.
Right.
That's so fighting against that current, I've seen not only in myself, but a lot of the sisterhood of leaders that we talk to.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. What about you, ladies? What drains you? What daily rituals or habits drain you that you're aware of?
Well, I will piggyback because what both of you said, I was like, yes, that very real. So just the jumping between things, that they're not actually finishing anything because you're trying to do everything at once. Well, I heard someone recently interviewed, and she's, a professional, very good at what she does. She runs a nonprofit on the side. She has 3 kids. She exercises. I mean, all these things. And I said to her, well, I was the one doing the interviewing, and I said, how in the world do you do it? Asking for a friend, please give me some tips. And she said, it's going to sound very simplistic, but be present. She says, with everything I do, I am 100% present. So right now, talking to you,
That's
I
all
don't
that's
have anything
happening.
else open. I've muted my phones, right? All my notifications, and I'm 100% present. And and it blew my mind because I realized I thought I was present and I'm not, because I'm checking my email or I'm checking my messages or trying to just, I don't know, just do something mindless in the background, some busy work. And I was not fully present. And so that has been something I've adopted. And it is freeing in a
Yeah,
sense, because I will get to that. It can wait. And regarding the emotions, I work remotely, and it's amazing how people's energy can affect you even through
absolutely.
Zoom or whatever platform it is that you use. And something that I wrote down from the summit the other week was, that reaction is not about me. And so almost becoming a mantra of, when someone has that energy and it's just I walk in with a smile on my face and I get hit with that wave of negative energy. I'm like, okay, this is not about me. This
That's
has
right.
nothing to do with me. This is about something that's going on. And I need to continue. I need to adapt, but I'm not going to let it affect me. So those have been 2
Huge.
practices that I've incorporated.
Yes, that's beautiful. Thank you. What about you, Fatima Pilar?
So good, Julia. Um, you know, I brought this up at the summit, and it continues to be a very present thing for me. I am dealing with accepting um, how things are,
Yeah,
you know, and that everything is perfect right now, right? That anxiety of trying to achieve perfection,
Mm.
it's extremely draining for me. And like Julia said, I'm a work in progress. It is one of the biggest burdens that I have as a person,
Yeah.
personally, professionally, is this anxiety for things to be perfect, and the fear that I have to process when I fear that it's not going to be perfect, that it's not going to be the way that I expect it to be, that it's not going to be aligned with my brand, you know. And I'm working here in Morocco, as you know, and we have a one of our nonprofit programs, first on the ground program that we're launching here in Morocco, and I am learning so much about how to work with other cultures in other environments, with other people in other professions, because I'm working right now with teachers.
Right.
So yes, so I continue to um, work with myself, to accept, be more accepting, be more humble, you
Yeah.
know,
Beautiful.
celebrate the small wins,
Yeah.
and again, accept, embrace, um, and learn about how others work. It doesn't have to always be my way, and it doesn't have to be that, that perfect
That intensity.
condition. Exactly. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Wow, this is gorgeous. So, if I could recap, so Sensei Victoria talked about energy and how you may anticipate what the energy will be like, or that you may anticipate what you know what's going to happen when in fact we don't, right? And Julia mentioned the value of presence, bring your presence to what you are doing in combination with what I share about doing all these different things. Well, if I bring my presence to the current task, to the current result that I want in this moment, to the interaction, to the engagement, to with my even with my children, my family, right? That it's gonna just recharge you instead of drain you. And finally, this sense, Pilar, that you share with us about many of us. Raise your hand if you're either a recovering perfectionist or existing perfectionist, right? Like, oh my gosh, that is everyone that I work with pretty much has this perfectionist syndrome, right? Where we want to do
The
our
type
best.
A's.
Yes.
A for perfection.
A for perfection. And it's so elusive. It doesn't exist because what's perfect for you may be imperfect for me. So here we are
Yes.
trying to reach perfection, and someone else may be like, that's not perfect. So you will never make everybody happy. So, what does it look like to let go and
Yeah.
accept what is, and
Yeah.
always do your best, right? Like, we're not going to be
Yes.
cleft
That's
and not
perfect.
exactly
That is
imperfectly
perfect.
perfect. Exactly.
Doing your best.
So, we want to leave you with some questions to ponder as you think about your self care and as you think about creating a structure for your self care that will support you. So, as Goddess Victoria pointed out, our next retreat will be Friday, October 20th. We'll be meeting from 10 to 4 p.m. ET. These two goddesses are going to be there, of course, as long as they can set aside their other obligations, which is what we all are facing, right? We have so much on our plate, it's overflowing. One of the phrases that we are actually tackling this month in our Visionary Leader Circle, which is our monthly program, is shifting our mindset from I am too busy to my life is full, and how that can support you in shifting this an anxious and I feel overwhelmed feeling with my life is full, right? It's like just a positive spin on it. So we're going to leave you with some questions because as we get ready to do our next retreat, we want to invite you, number one, to join us on October 20th at the World Self Care Summit and experience what it's like to learn about these rituals and habits that you can implement in your life, depending on where you are. We're all going to be different. So you can improve your self care, improve your performance, and lead from a place of feeling grounded and centered and knowing that you're work in progress, like all of us, right? Nobody's perfect. No one that I know is perfect. And so these are some of the questions that we want to leave you with. What would it look like to release those draining habits and rituals? I want you to write these questions down. What will it look like to release those draining habits and rituals that you identify? All right. So the first question is what is draining you? And then what would it feel like to release them? Another question, what are you doing daily to recharge? And that's what I want us to discuss. But let me finish going through the questions and then we'll discuss that one. What are you doing daily to recharge? Let's get clear what that is. Because unless we get that clarity, we won't have the courage to actually do something about it and change this condition that we may be feeling. And then when you feel recharged, what will you stop doing and what will you start doing? So this is our last question. When you feel recharged, what will you stop doing and what will you start doing? So let's go into that question. What are you doing daily to recharge? That is Julia and Pilar.
Well, I can share that when I wake up in the morning, and I don't do this every day, again, work in progress, but spending that quiet time to be present. I'm not very good at meditation. I'm trying really hard, but just focusing my thoughts on one
Yeah,
singular thing where my brain
beautiful.
is thinking about what are my to-do lists saying today, and not just being present in that moment. And then the breathing, right? Just how do I breathe throughout the day when I'm getting overwhelmed? So just those moments of presence, and then gratitude, which is something that I've always done, but instead of doing it at the end of the day, how do I throughout the day when something is going awry, stopping and looking at it from a different perspective? It's not everything that's going wrong. How do I reframe it and say,
Yes.
no, this is happening because, it's a good thing that this is happening, and it means that I can do this, and it means I can do that. And so that perspective has been helpful.
So zooming out is what I'm hearing. You're zooming out and saying, wait, this is only this thing. It's not my everything. Gratitude, being present and focusing your thoughts in the one thing. And actually, I also heard gratitude throughout the day, not only at the end of the day. So that's beautiful, Julia. Thank you. What
Yeah.
about you, Pilar? What are you doing to recharge daily?
We're very literal and very physical. Breakfast, it's a very important meal for me. Talk about recharging and charging, getting ready for the day. So usually for me, breakfast is also a time to reflect on the day ahead. um, Looking at the calendar, and you sort of start setting my mindset, for the day. And then in the evening, I also, try to take a longer shower, and
Mm,
sort of just wash away the concerns of the day, any tension, and going to bed feeling very fresh. And again, do a reflection, about the day, and about all the blessings,
mm,
and all the experiences
I love
and the
it.
people that I face on a beautiful day that's about to wrap up, right? So
That's right.
that's the beginning of the day for me, and the end of the day are two pivotal moments in terms of, centering myself.
They sound like bookends, right? Those are your
Yes.
book.
Yeah, and
That's
what happens in the middle? Well,
who knows?
yeah, I mean, right? Like,
Oh
we
my
can
God.
only look ahead to what's happening in the day. We, start to be ready, try to be
Yeah.
ready for everything, but there's a lot that we don't control about it,
Yes.
right?
Well, it's so beautiful because, by the way, just those of you who don't know, so Fatima Pilar Avila is, she said, a digital nomad. She lives around the world and she's currently in Morocco. So she has a very different lifestyle than the rest of us. God is Julia is with her family, three kids, a husband, a job, like, corporate job. God is Victoria and I are both entrepreneurs. So we're always helping and supporting our clients, and partners, and everyone who's listening to this is going to have a different life. And I see that Aliza Annette joined us. Thank you, Annette, for joining us in today's discussion. And so each of us have different lives. So each of us is responsible to own our self care and to figure out what's going to work for us. And no one can tell us what that is, by the way. All we can do is share what we do, share, give you examples of how we do it. And ultimately, you're going to be the designer and creator of your self care. And all we're doing at the World Self Care Summit and in our communities individually is to support you in creating that structure and to hold you accountable for creating it, because we know that when you do, that's when you truly give yourself the power, empower yourself to thrive. Otherwise, we're running on fumes. So, thank you for those of you who are watching. If you need to learn more about the World Self Care Summit, please go to worldselfcaresummit.com. Get all the details for our next event. We're going to do this every year, and we have three major events every year. We have the last one happening on October 20th, 2023. And then we will update the page and we will create the new events for next year. In the meantime, we are encouraging you to make self care part of your daily practice and ritual so that you don't drain yourself. And what would you like to say, Sensei Victoria, before we say goodbye? And each of you, please just share with us your last message before we say goodbye.
Absolutely. What matters most is how you feel. How you feel, especially as a woman leader, is infectious, right? As you share your energy with your family, your children, as you lead them at home, right? As you share your energy with your team as well as your upper management. What matters most is how you feel, and you deserve time set aside for that. Make sure you go to worldselfcaresummit.com, print it out, present it to HR, right, to your team lead. Have the discussion about bringing you and your team to the next one. We'll see you there.
That would be amazing. Julia.
I would just say, as women, we often put others before ourselves, and it's hard to make that time on your own. And so, what I love about these events is it's almost like you're all holding me accountable. I said I'm going to show up. I have to be impeccable with my word and follow through. And so, wonderful excuses to take the time, and again create those practices. Maybe I can't do that every week, but I could take one thing that I learned from that day and start applying it to my daily ritual. So thank you.
Yay. Thank you for being with us, Julia. And you have the last word, Pilar.
I would say that in order, following also what Julia is saying, our nature is to give the best of us to other people, but oftentimes we don't share that best of us with ourselves. It's
Mhm.
important that we give ourselves the time, that we take care of our needs, physical, mental, spiritual, so that we can be better prepared to give to those whom we love and
Yeah.
everything that we love our best self, right? So it
Yeah.
starts with us,
Beautiful.
because you
And so,
cannot give what you cannot have. This we heard at the retreat, right?
yes.
You can only give what you have. So
Yes, yes. So a couple of things come to mind. You cannot pour from an empty cup, right? You
yes,
can't. And number two, the cliche phrase, you have to put on the oxygen mask on first, right? Because if you don't, you have nothing to give to anyone you love around you, including your teams. Yes, you get to love your teams when you feel recharged. So, with that, we want to say goodbye to everyone. We look forward to meeting you and seeing you, and connect with us if you, as Goddess Sensei Victoria mentioned, if you want to bring the World Self Care Summit to your company. We would love to create a retreat experience for your employees. That would be amazing. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week. We'll see you soon. Bye.